Hello everyone, welcome to Carvan Cinema Archives. My name is Eshan Sharma, and with me I have a very special guest whom we have seen in many films and theatre, Adil Hussain. And he calls himself an actor. He has done art house cinema and mainstream cinema as well as international cinema. Films like The Reluctant Fundamentalist, The Life of Pi. He received National Film Award Special Jury Special Mention at the 2017 National Film Awards for Hotel Salvation and Maj Rati Keteki, if I pronounced it right. I'm sorry for the wrong pronunciations,
No, 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 it's good.
but he has starred in many languages in English, in Hindi, Assamese, Bengali, Tamil, Marathi, Malayalam, Norwegian, and French films. So today we are going to talk about his journey, his films, and his opinions on uh, the craft of acting and films. So thank you, Adil sir, for accepting this invitation. Truly an honor hosting you.
No, pleasure, Ishan. It's wonderful to talk to young people because we are going to go soon and you have to lead the world. So, yeah, whatever I have experienced so far, I believe that it is important to, if there is something worthwhile to learn from experiences, and which I believe we do have. Most of the great learning happens not intellectually, but experientially. I'm not neglecting the intellect part at all. I'm just saying when we know something, but when we do it, then it becomes better in terms of experiential understanding, and it is easier also for people to understand, and it's easier for people to explain. Like if I explain something which I have just heard rather than experiencing, then the impact of that explanation is not deep. So probably it would make sense, at least to me, if not to you. And a lot of things that we, elderly generation has to learn from young people, what they think of the world, what they understand, what are their visions, why are they here, what they want to do in life, and why they want to do that, what they want to do in life. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that opening remark, which I think we'll see if you can learn something from our generation. But you were born in a very small district called Golpara, which is on the bank of the Budhalui, as Brahmaputra is called in Assam. So, can you talk about your childhood, your family, and your father especially?
Yeah, it's a small town. I just actually came back a week ago from there and walked around the Brahmaputra and clicked some photographs and posted also on Instagram because I'm so proud of that place that I was born there. Whether was a choice to be born there, that's a spiritual question. We don't know. Why am I born in a certain family? Why are you born, to your parents? It's a question that people probably should ask. And then probably that will lead to deeper questions of the whys and whos of the world, the billion-dollar questions, which we generally avoid. The town itself is very beautiful. Trees and hills and Brahmaputra and lakes and ponds. Grew up on the tree branches of mango trees and jackfruit trees across the neighborhood. Monkeys and macaques and langurs. Grew up listening to. Still, when I go at night, I still hear the foxes. They are wailing in the night, in the middle of the night, in where I sleep. Just next door near the pond, a bunch of foxes. They would go, "Rrr," all that. So still, it has its charm, especially our part of the town. And when I was a kid, it was even quieter because less cars, or rather no car. chief transportation was rickshaw, pulling rickshaw. And neighbors were extremely friendly. They would land up without announcing that they're coming in, and with the whole family, and you have to entertain them with tea and whatnot. Relatives would drop in from different parts of the state without announcing that they're coming in. They would spend the night. So that bonding and that serving the other, it's a very part of Indian culture. As we as families became fragmented and we started living nuclear family lives, we have lost that, or rather, we're losing it probably. We do not really welcome guests who come unannounced in our places. That I'm not ready. I have become like that. If I can tell you honestly, because I lived in the cities after I left Assam. But it overwhelms me when I think of my childhood right now, where people are welcoming no matter at what time of the night, probably. I'm not saying everybody, but most of the people, they would welcome. I still remember going to Punjab in 1991 in the middle of the night, 2 o'clock. We came back from some shoot. We went to see some shoot, and the family where we stayed, they would wake up at 2 in the morning. Oh, kya khaoge ji, kya piyoge ji? With that enthusiasm, to serve the other. That culture I grew up, and I'm not happy that I am not being able to instill that in our child. That it's okay for anybody to drop in at any time. That probably gives you that sense of bonding with another human being, no matter who they are. Like for example, a rickshaw puller who used to live next door, Nur Muhammad Bhai, I still remember. He was from Bihar. Our forefathers were from Bihar, and who came, and he would come to our house and spend time with my mother, and mother would make him tea. And that class difference was also not into play about the equation of human bonding. um, or the religion. For example, I offered Anjali and Saraswati Puja. My friends, those who are so-called Hindus or coming from the other community, I would say they dropped in all the Eid unannounced, uninvited, and they claimed the kitchen, and they would have whatever. They would tell my mom that, Mama, auntie or kuri, as you call in Assamese, that we would like to eat this. And the ma would happily make it for them. I remember coming back totally drenched with color in Holi, and my mom is going to clean me up. So I grew up in a society where this kind of bonding was there and still there in our place. There is certain kind of division which has started since some time now, not only I'm talking about some 2 decades, 3 decades ago. That and culturally, see, culture is a mix of hundreds of things, right? How your food habit, how you behave, what your customs are, what kind of behavior and public space behavior, private space behavior, festival spaces behavior. How do you behave? How do you treat people? All this is culture, right? That's why you called cultured people, that they do not look down at people. They do not they know the taste of good things as well. And they also understand and appreciate small things or minimal things who cannot afford those things, like people from the economically weaker section of the society. If they prefer sukha roti, you also try to respect that. The culture is all that as a you that help you to grow as a wholesome human being, and not a selectively, cultured person, that, oh, I only appreciate fine wine and fine clothes and fine dining, but I do not like to eat something from a golgappa wala on the street. Because of course you might have certain fear of what you call the unhygienic state, but if not, then some people would look down at as a lower status thing to do. So music, theater, literature, singing, dancing, weaving, All those things were very, very prevalent in still is in our town. So my father was a person who appreciated art, especially songs and literature. Theater also he used to go and watch it. Films he used to watch. Once upon a time he gave up. And my mother was the silent creator, home creator. And we do not look at mothers as contributing to the society, those who are not earning. I think that's such a bogus idea. I would say that is one of the most horrendous ideas that people believe that, because they are not earning members, they're contributing to create a human being. What could be a greater gift to the society if a person is contributing their their whole life to create a human being, right? Literally create, keeping you in the womb and then nurturing you and making you a human being with nourishment, physical nourishment and emotional nourishment. So that is probably the greatest gift that the fathers can probably ever can imagine to give. So I had an amazing, nourishing and loving mother who gave me, and probably that's the reason that I still feel so much love from others, and that I have the ability to love people.
So you said your father was interested in the arts and he used to watch theater, but I think you said in one of your interviews that he did not want you to be an actor.
Uh, I think that is simply the fear of a father who, or probably mother as well. But my mom did not participate in stopping me. But my father, emotionally, sometimes through words, did not approve of what I wanted to do. It's surely because he thought that there is no future in terms of economical, what kind of economical state that I will be in, what kind of earning that I will have ever. So because he considered that as an elite class pursuit. My father was a simple school teacher, and then he became a Muslim marriage registrar because he was an expert in Arabic and Persian and English and Bengali, Assamese, and Urdu. But so he believed that I'll not be able to earn money, and that's the only reason. Not that he disliked the profession or disliked art. Yeah. So I had to fight against that, and then he gave up. He realized that, oh, this guy Adil, he's a headstrong, rebellious guy. So there's no need, there's no way that I can stop him from what he wants to do.
So did he also take you to theaters and cinema that he used to watch?
I remember going with him probably only once, and then he gave up watching films for other reasons, I guess. I remember watching Mera Naam Joker with him, which had two intervals. Like it was a long film. I think it was like 4.5 hours long. I forgot. You can find out from Google, how long that film was. We had two intervals. So that was probably the only film I watched with him. Yeah.
And how were your early encounters with, say, art or cinema, or for that matter, literature?
From childhood. I grew up watching plays, um, school plays done by my elder brothers. Then the neighborhood theater called Assam Club, which is 4 minutes walk from our house. And there used to be regular theater performed by my, elder brothers, friends, and all that. And dance and music is very, it's in the cultural fabric of Assam. You know that, Bihu, and every year there are three Bihus, but basically in two of the Bihus, Bhogali and Rongali Bihu, we would invite people from across the state, the radio, top class radio singers. Those days, no film singers were there. Yes, but film singers. film playback singers from Guwahati or from the neighboring state, which is Bengal. They would come to perform songs and plays. So those were the exposure I had, and also at home. And my father was a deep devotee of Tagore and songs and poetries and literature, and he used to recite poetry all the time. Listen to Tumris and Khayals on radio. We had a record player also, and we would have Jim Reeves playing in our house, and then of course the other film singers, Kishore Kumar or Mohammad Rafi, Lata Mangeshkar, but also the singers from Bengal, Manavendra Chatterjee, Hemant Mukherjee, Manna Dey, all these singers, we had record players. So we would listen to them like a ritual almost, like at a certain time of the day, those songs will be played, or I would play them, even including Boney M and ABBA for that matter. In a town like where newspaper used to come 3 days after they were published, I keep quoting this particular thing in all my interviews because it's quite funny that in spite of that particular remoteness of our town, we had the exposure, to some extent, without having Google or YouTube or anything like that.
So you moved from Golpara to Guwahati when you were, I think, 17, 18,
Yeah,
of
yeah.
your teenage. So was it then that you were introduced to theater? You participated in your school play, and when was that? When was that moment?
I moved to Guwahati in 1982, I think, and of course, so people in Guwahati they had more exposure towards different dramatists and people, those who were exposed to national theatre, international theatre by virtue of being in the city. Exposure to books, exposure to theatre directors and musicians, and so they had been doing better theatre than what we did. They had more resources also. They would get sort of a little funding from a rich man or from the cultural department of the state, and they would have better theatre halls. Our theatre halls in Assam, where I performed, there was large windows not covered. Monkeys used to come in, when we'd rehearse or when we would perform. So, that's a huge difference. And that is a sort of discipline which had professional discipline which had come into the rehearsal aspect, that people come on time and they give, and it's taken seriously because they took that as a vocation, as a profession. So the seriousness, the sincerity, and the kind of rigor that they would work on acting and the discussion that they would have is way richer and wiser than we would have amongst ourselves. The seniors to theater workers in my hometown would have read a little bit, but the exposure wasn't there. So, you are in a bigger tank, bigger pond, and you are listening to bigger frogs. You're hearing the experiences. Oh, this guy has seen that theater when he went to Delhi, or when he went to Hyderabad, or Kolkata was the nearest cultural hub, the closest to Assam, to Guwahati. So they will bring in those richness into their practices, and by virtue of that, we would listen and we would understand and learn. Yeah, so Guwahati was a great learning process, and I met my first theater teacher there, acting teacher in a way. His name is Dhrubajit Kishore Chaudhary, who was very popularly known as Bhaya Mama. Then I joined his stand-up comic group as a satire, actually. Stand-up comedy is something different, I think, but we called ourselves the satire, Vyang satire group. We used to we used to question the establishment, and no matter what was the establishment was, we were friends, but we will question them with a lot of love and humor. That is the job of Wenger, that you do not throw venom. You're not coming from a place of contempt. You're not coming from a place of hatred. You're not coming from a place of judgment, but you are looking at the facts and you are making sure that the people, those who are in power, you are reminding them that why were you there with love and with satire and with humor. And that makes more sense to me. Even my son doesn't listen to me when I'm coming with, like, what are you doing? Like, Papa, what are you talking? But if I go to him with care, with love, and he gives me his attention, like, yeah, oh, that makes sense. So why would someone who you don't know would listen to your views if you don't come from that space of love and care? And if you come from hatred, nobody is going to listen to you. They will hate you. So this is what I don't understand in the news culture these days. There is so much of shouting and hatred and the othering, and I'm like, nobody's going to listen to you. It doesn't work. It never worked in a family. Forget about it's going to work on strangers who you don't even know. So I find it absolutely ridiculous, and I think that people should change their tactic. That's why I love satire. Satire is, I think, is one of the most wonderful ways to criticize and yet not offend the other person. But people choose to get offended also. But that's, you can't help it. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Nowadays, it's people are not. I think they lack the sense of humor that is required to understand satire. But
Yeah,
you
not everybody. Some people, very few, I think, just very few. And it gets blown up out of proportion because of social media and all that. I
yeah.
think people, they still like to laugh at themselves. Like, yeah, I made a stupid mistake. I'm so sorry. And I wouldn't do it later. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, before moving forward, one more thing that I would like to mention is that you come from a family of Sufi saint. Uh,
Mm.
you lean, you draw your lineage.
My grandfather, both my grandfathers, actually, in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, and they come from Afghanistan, if I'm not wrong.
No, no. My mother's father, he comes from Iraq,
Iraq.
who came in 18. Uh, Actually, I mean, very recently, I don't have it with me right now. There's a book that is a government of, like, the local administration of Gwalpara district published a book on themselves, the district, what do you call that, establishment day or whatever new thing. So they included my grandfather's tomb as well, and also me. So I felt like, oh, that's very nice. I mean, known people from the district, So my grandfather, so there it says, but I think that's a bit needs to be corrected. So he passed away in 1935, but he walked into India in probably 1950s or 60s, not 1860s. And then he came, he spent a lot of time in different parts of the country. Then he established himself. He just sat down in a jungle in Assam, and people gathered around him, and the township grew, and then he passed away there. And there's this shrine there, and people turn up there every year. Around last time, it was around 1 million people turned up in 3 days' time. So yeah, but the reason you asked me, why did you ask me that question?
I was just mentioning for the record. So
Okay,
the
okay,
question
okay.
was, there's this disjoint in the question because you said that you got into theater when you came to Rati and then you teacher. But how did it start? What was the starting point? When were you introduced to theater as in acting?
Oh, right from my childhood. When I was 8 years old, I did a play. I think I spoke about it many a times in different interviews in kindergarten, and the play was Capmaker and the Sailor, and there were two actors in the play, and the mother of the other actor directed it, who was a mathematics teacher in the kindergarten, and uh, and that was it. That was like they fed me almost like Amrit, and and gave birth to an actor, or gave birth to the this intense desire to act. Uh, and that was it, and it continued, and it kept doing plays, and every year, and then every 6 months, and every 3 months, and every day rehearsing. And also because I was into music as well, and I played guitar, and I played percussion. So we had a music band as well, and so we were all culturally oriented. My friends have all the instruments. He was a rich man's son, and who used to own a beedi factory. So he had all the instruments, and we would go there every afternoon after the school or after the college, 10+2 when I was studying there, and we would rehearse new songs. And there was a songwriter and who used to write and compose songs, and we would chip in our, whatever we can do. Yeah, it was a never looking back about, and no doubt about that I wanted to act. And it continued until now. And I'm sitting here talking to Eshan about acting.
Yeah, yeah, but you said that Kolkata was the nearest cultural hub to you from Guwahati. But how was the journey from Guwahati to Delhi and National School of Drama?
Yeah,
How was that? Because you could have gone to Calcutta, because there also there is a theater hub. But why
yeah,
Delhi?
yeah.
Why NSD?
Part of the reason probably was that I didn't have the money to pursue acting by myself, being an apprentice of somebody who's pretty well known in Kolkata, like Badal Sarkar or Rudra Prasad Sengupta or other directors, those who are doing theatre seriously in Kolkata. And the second thing was probably that the kind of established institution which has a curriculum which has also proved that they can groom and train actors like Nasiruddin Shah or Om Puri, or in those days, those are the two names that we knew. Pankaj Kapoor and Om Shiv Puri, and um, and it was completely free of cost. You get a seat, you get a scholarship. So there were 20 seats, 20 scholarships. I didn't have to pay a single penny. I didn't have to worry about food. My father couldn't have afforded. So yeah, and that was one of the bigger reasons, probably more than. So money, economy played a very important role, and also the prestige of being an institution of repute, which has proved itself that they groom amazing actors, and heard stories that they invite teachers from across the globe. To teach Shakespeare, they bring someone from England. To teach Chekhov, they bring someone from Russia. To learn Commedia dell'arte, they bring someone from Italy. So it is a place where you're like, when I came from Gwalpara to Guwahati, was like, okay. And then Delhi was like, I was in the middle of the sea, not even the pond, not even the middle of the sea. I think is on this side of the shore of the sea, because the sea was in front of me, and I just was introduced to the sea, and I have to swim now to go, forget to cross it, but to get past the waves, the initial waves, which throws you back to the shore.
And then how was your experience at NSD? How was the food? Because you also like to cook. So how was it?
Food-wise, it was terrible experience, because in Assam we are very accustomed to eating bland food. It's a lot of greens, and because it just grows at the backyard of everybody's house. We have a lot of vegetables and leafy vegetables. Saag, we call it, not only palak, but we have like probably 100, literally 100 different variety of saag. We just pluck it and we eat it, cook it and eat it, and fish in the pond. And like my dad never had a meal without fish in his entire life. So you come to Delhi and you are having this chole, and so it was like, what am I doing here? And then in Assam, only when we fall ill we have roti, and then we're rice eater. So, yeah, there was rice in Delhi, in NSD canteen as well, but the sabjis, like for example, vegetables, you can't even recognize those vegetables. It's filled with masala. Like North Indian people, they don't know how to cook vegetables. That's what I thought. But when you go to the small places like Rajasthan, you have amazing uh, uh, in the villages especially. But when you make it in bulk, I guess the cooks were not really. That's what I thought, that people don't know how to eat vegetables. Why would they put so much masala in vegetable, jeera, fira, and all that? You don't, because then the flavor of the vegetable is gone, and you don't cook vegetable like you cook meat. There is no smell of vegetable that you have to kill in order to put, so that you have to put so much masala in it. So I was horrified by. Anyway, so food was a struggle, but my focus was on the work, and thank God that I was pretty late when I came in. I was 27 years old, and I realized that my time is running out. My classmates were like from 19 years onward. So my youngest classmate, I was 19 years old, and like Anup Soni is my classmate. He was 22, I was 27. So I was the third senior most in the class. So I had two more people who were older than me in my class, but I was thinking all the time that, my God, my time is running out and I have to make every minute count here. And so I took up that as a sort of, it's not a very conscious decision. It was like emotionally I was driven. Like, oh, I have to do, I have to do, I have to do. So I will wake up early and then go to the class. First 6 months was terrible because I was not in the habit of waking up early at all. Here I had to. Then also the idea of acting for me was that you don't have to study anymore. So yeah, I realized, oh my God, I have to study the history of literature, history of theater architecture, history of art. And I was overwhelmed by there is one subject called aesthetics, which I have never heard that word before in my life. Study of beauty. And the folk theater culture and the Western classical theater, Western modern theater, Western postmodern theater, and it's like filled with hundreds of subjects. But the emphasis was on practical acting. So that and the academic part of it, I realized that I had to learn both, and I somehow, thank God for that, I grasped the importance of it. That I must understand my past in order to understand my present. How we came about the way we are now as a modern society. Where did it start? How did it happen? Not in details, we are not anthropologists, just the amount that we need to understand as actors, as the student of acting, rather than as actors, as student of acting. That the sitting position, the gesture, the postures, the thought that which crossed your mind, how does it happen? What was it in 5,000 years ago, when the Egyptian civilization was there, when the Vedic people were living here in the country, in this land, piece of land? So all that, and amazing teachers. My teachers were gems. They are they are my parents almost. They were my parents. They taught all of us with so much of love and care, and took special care, for those who had the knack to, work harder. So I was one of the those ones who was given special care, because I would ask questions. I would stay back in the school after hours. I would come back early in the morning before the school starts. So I would say that it turned out to be, I had no intention to be a good student, but it turned out to be a good student because I wanted to learn and go deeper into acting, and I just wanted to know more about it. And then I realized all the subjects in the world is connected to acting. Uh, as you see, you need to know about everything, uh, even science, for example. So I started studying Roger Penrose about quantum mechanics, Stephen Hawking, and the theory of everything, and Einstein's theory, so all that. My interest developed to understand more about time, because the question that Stanislavski asked, if you can answer these 5 Ws, I've spoken about it in several interviews. who, where, when, what, and why. These are 5 Ws. And there is one more, the auxiliary W is what do you want? Want. What do you want? And now, what do you want now? Like, what do I want now? Do I want you to understand me? Yes, I want that. That's why I'm talking, Who am I? So who question and when are you? Well, at 11 o'clock, if you look at it very narrowly, but also when am I in this time of the month and the weather, the political time, the social time, the world politics time, all kinds of time and the cosmic time and the time understood by Einstein or Stephen Hawking time. It doesn't exist actually. So if you are aware of all that, you don't have to constantly think about it. But if you keep reading, if you keep it in your consciousness, then you become a wider and deeper person. And that is it's not one of the, I think, the most important quality of an actor. That when you come and stand, people would recognize that depth. You don't have to act. You don't have to enact depth. And you are not a frivolous person. You are not a superficial person. You are not talking nonsense, Probably I'm talking a lot of nonsense right now, but probably there is an intention to learn there at least. So yeah, I can keep going about my NSD days and the struggles and all that. But yeah, if you have any specific question on that, I'm happily,
So
I'll be happy to answer.
was there also a language barrier that you faced because you came from Assam, then
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Delhi, Punjabi, Hindi?
Yes, yes. Most of the teaching, also a lot of teachers spoke in English. And my English wasn't that good, but it wasn't bad either. My English was better than a lot of classmates of mine. They came from very, very rural Hindi background speaking areas. And for example, Royston Abel, who is a very celebrated theater director now, he comes from a very, very elite school. He studied in probably Woodstock. And I come from a very small town, but yet I studied in the English medium school from class 1. So my father was very good in English, so he beat the hell out of me to teach me the basic grammar, literally, and I could understand. But there are a lot of words that I did not understand, so I had to look it up. Hindi was, I thought I spoke good Hindi, but I realized that I didn't. I didn't understand. I didn't know anything about the gender system in Hindi language, which is I still have a huge problem with it. Like kursi hoti hai ya hota hai, I still don't know, and I'm not proud of it. But I think that for some reason it never interested me because I need to speak when I improvise in Hindi, and I kept hearing about it, so I got the hang of it. But still, I make mistakes when I have to improvise in a scene in a film, and so I had to redo it. The director would come and very, very sweetly would say, "Adil, thi hoga last." I was like, "Okay, theek hai," I'll say thi. So Hindi was an issue. And also there were issues of some directors in NSD who would come and would like to cast the actors from Hindi speaking belt because it makes their life easier, the director's life easier. And I protested officially about it because NSD is not a place, according to me, uh, where the commercial success of the play should be taken into account much. It's an academic place, and every person who come to that institution are from different background. You cannot expect a Tamil person from the village or from the town to speak Hindi fluently. You cannot expect that. It's a national school of drama. It's not Hindi school of drama. Though there has to be a teaching medium, English or Hindi, uh, and people from non-Hindi speaking belt, they struggle a lot. And also now, I mean, the policies were absolutely friendly towards non-Hindi speaking people. That's why they had been selected also from different parts of the country. And but certain directors would have certain ideas of what success means, and they would sort of. Then I protested that it should not be that Hindi-speaking actors should get the lead roles all the time. And then the idea of double casting came in, that you would cast two people in the same role, and then every alternate day they would perform. So, yeah.
So you had to cruise through a lot of ups and downs in your energy journey then. But
Those are all learning processes. Yeah, you learn a lot about, and the people, those who you are confronting with your opposite views are also learning. Yeah.
so I think you went to London after your NSD, after you did your graduation from NSD. So what happened in London? What you enrolled in a theater school in London?
Yes. So after when I was in the last leg of my drama school in NSD after like 2.5 years, so it's a 3-year course. So I realized that whatever I have learned is the Indian, mostly the Indian idea of acting has sort of the truth, of course, is the main thing, but at the same time, there is a tendency towards exaggerating your performance, especially in theater and also in films. Like you've seen Shatrughan Sinha Saab and "Oi, kiss haram zadene." So there's a sense of what do you call that in acting jargon, uh, declaration kind of a thing. It's like rhetorical, they the larger than life attitude in acting. I was very touched by some Western actors like Dustin Hoffman, um, and those days who were there. Hoffman, Robert De Niro kind of actors. Those are the only films that I could manage to watch. There are other great actors also, but European actors that I haven't seen then. I didn't have any access to European films. So when I saw Dustin Hoffman in a film called Papillon or Papillon, I was like, are these actors or these are real people? And so that sort of uh, it made me interested in how an actor can perform so convincingly and how to go deeper within to know that craft. I thought maybe in the West they have the ability to teach me. And so that's the reason I applied for this scholarship. And British Council, through British Council, it's called the Charles Wallace Trust, and still they have the that thing. And people, those who are wanting, they can avail it. And I was the first NSD actor to get that scholarship, and the first Assamese to get that. And I didn't expect it. I wrote, they wanted me to write a letter of intent, that why do you want to go? And I wrote what I felt, you know. My teacher, Arjun Rana, whom I went to, that what should I write? He said, don't ask me. You should write why you want to go. And that's it. And if you are honest about it, they will see it. And they did. And they gave me the scholarship. And then I went to Drama Studio London. And it was a great experience because they have systematized more systematically, they are teaching you. But the only problem I had with the teaching there or education there, especially, that I had deeper questions that they didn't have answer to. My questions are like, why do I have to act? Well, how acting is beneficial for the society, and who am I? Yeah, so they would stop at my childhood. Who are you? Your parents. I'm like, no, who am I? The time is infinite. So where have I come from? But the energy never dies. So what happens when I die? Kind of a question. They were like, this is typical Indian syndrome, I guess. So it was not really, but as I said, professionally, in terms of what market wanted me to learn, I did. I understood characterization quite a bit more than what I have probably done in India. I understood how to sort of structure my performance, how to, go from point A to point B to Z through a play or through creating a role and all that. But I was not satisfied with that. So I came back and continued training for next 6 years. Yeah.
And where did you train after you come back from
With
London?
my teachers, my teachers, mostly with Khalid Tayeb. Then I had done few plays with Robin Das, but mostly physical training and training to understand the instrument. This is the body and everything which is in or outside the body. I don't know. To be able, I not why it behaves the way it behaves, but how it behaves and how I can use it. You know, why the guitar sounds the way it sounds. You have to understand the physics of it and the mathematics of it. But I'm not interested in that. I was not. Now I am. I was not interested in that. But I need to know how to make good sound. You know, how to play it. So those aspects of it, how the emotions work, how where do the emotions come from, or how you can access it at will on demand, how you can stay in the state of uh, creative how do you call that, how to access your creative reservoir at will should not depend on chances to at least come out with 80% output, and if not 100%. And I should not have the luxury to say, oh, it didn't work today. No, it must work. And how to reach there every time I do a thing. So those things and the fundamentals I realized of all these things, including the professions, that every student who are watching it will see that the basic thing is like breaking it down is to very few things for me, is that concentration, focus, alertness, attentiveness, and and awareness. If you have worked on these, you can learn anything you like. You can learn Japanese, you can learn how to fly a spaceship, you can learn how to cook, or you can learn to be a great carpenter. It doesn't matter. But finding out what you love to do, yes, of course, if it is possible. Even if you don't love what you are doing right now, but since you're doing it, why not finding a way to like it? In order to like it, you can just work on focus, concentration, alertness, attentiveness, you know, and by various tools you can use to ground yourself and to be in the present. And the present, the degree of your presence can be 0 to infinite. So that, if one can focus on how to learn it and find tools to learn it, then you will have no problem wherever you are. It doesn't matter what you do. It matters how you are, what you are, not what you do. It probably doesn't define a person what you do, but who you are as a person. What values do you carry as a person?
Yeah, so this is the end of the first part of our conversation, which was about your journey. But we'll come back to the this part again in the second part, where we'll talk of your professional journey. But the first film that you did, you start your career with an Assamese film called Zongkolpo. It
Hong Kong.
Hong Kolpo.
संकल्प संकल्प हिंदी में संकल्प कहते हैं, डिटर्मिनेशन, संकल्प.
So, and how did you become part of that? Because you were doing theater. So, how was the shift to cinema?
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. I did a play called The Laughter of the Lion, and I played a so-called comic role in that. I was always perceived as a comedian in Assam, and now in India, they all think that I'm a serious, this intense actor, and I do not. So in Assam, they never gave me a serious role. So when I say serious role means intense role, they thought Adil, he's a comedian, he's a total comedian, and I had to really seek for comic roles from my directors, like kuch to de do, matlab, let me do a lighter role. So this was a comic role in a play called The Laughter of the Lion. And the writer of the play, Mr. Ranjit Sharma, and I got a Best Actor award for that in an all Assam one act play competition. Uh, that was in probably 80, whatever, 84, 85, I forgot. And then the writer of the play asked me that would you be willing to play uh, not the lead role, but one of the roles in the film. And I was dying to act in films, you know. So I said, yeah, absolutely. So he got me in and I played a role and then one after the other, before the other, this first film finished, I got a call from the second film's director and the third and the fourth. And then video films, telefilms, the first telefilm of Assam, the first video film in Assam. Those days in Doordarshan, they used to produce these telefilms, and I would be acting in them and theater, stand-up comedy, and the radio plays and all that. Yeah, that's how it started. And then I realized that I need to learn acting because I love to watch this particular actor and Topan Das, whose name was, and not the other actor when they are both on the screen at the same time. What is it that makes me look at him and not at both of them are handsome guys so far? I mean, so-called handsome guys. And I enjoy watching him. There is something in him which attracts me to look at him. So I spoke to him and he said about acting techniques first time. There's somebody called Stanislavski, there's somebody called Grotowski, there's somebody called Peter Brook, there's somebody called Merhold, and Michael Chekhov, and all these acting gurus across the globe. I was like, oh, okay. And then thought of NSD, and then, yeah, that's the transition which happened.
Yeah, and you are still doing a lot of Assamese films and projects, and which are critically acclaimed. And since past few years, Assamese films are getting recognition, like Armies and Village
Yeah,
Rock by Rima Das.
correct,
How
correct.
do you
Yeah.
see that growth of Assamese regional, so-called regional cinema?
Assamese film, I guess there were amazing filmmakers in Assam. There was no division between commercial or art house film those days because most films were art house films. Because they were made, most of the films were made in those days, early days, were not a product of the intent to make profit. Yes, they realized they knew that money is important, but that wasn't the intent behind. Like the first film in Assam, Sati Jaimati, was made out of love because the filmmaker, whose surname is Agarwala, actually, so not really forefathers are not from Assam like my forefathers, but he's considered the father of Assamese literature. And very interesting, is it not? Like he's Jyoti Prasad Agarwala, and nobody thinks of him as an outsider. That is the greatness of Assamese people as well, because his contribution to Assamese language, Assamese literature, poetry, novels are like unheard of. So he made the film. It's just sheer act of love for cinema and art. The other films which follow after that. At a certain point, people took that as a business, it is in a way because you need money to make films, and not everybody would pay you every time to make a film and lose money. So that's the time the tip happened. The commerce took over and art went down. And if you look at it from that point of view, for a long time, films were made. Even the subjects were not necessarily very deep, but at least there was a sense of aesthetics and the taste which was maintained. There was no obvious uh, technique or masala, if I can put it, to make it like KFC or McDonald's, like to hook you or to attract your lower chakras, if I can put it that way. There was an attempt to reach out to your heart. So And then slowly it shifted, and there are a lot of bad films made. And but thankfully, people like Rima Das and Bhaskar Hazarika, and there were other people, young filmmakers. One of my students from NSD, um, um, he made a film. I'm very hopeful that the young ones, those who have exposed themselves to world cinema, will understand the balance of commerce and art and not allow the commerce to take over the art part of it, because the disaster starts there. It just goes downhill after that. How low can you go? And if you keep eating fast food, you will definitely become unhealthy, and society consumes films. Uh, Indian society, they watch a lot of films, and it is important that you give them good food, healthy food, organically grown food, and not artificially flavored with sex and violence and darkness and all that. Yeah.
So we'll talk about that in the third part of our conversation, where we'll take.
Okay.
Yeah. But you have also worked on a TV project called Jasus Vijay. Can
Yes.
you talk about that experience of working for television?
I didn't want to actually. Then the but I was doing theater. I never had money in my pocket. I only had 100 rupees in my pocket all the time. And my friends used to look after me most of the time. And it never crossed my mind that, I can't just be a guest in my friend's house, and exploit their love for me. And so I decided to earn money. And for some reason, this happened that Jasus Vijay was offered to me. I never auditioned for it, or I didn't go out and seek for it. In fact, I was suffering from chicken pox, and I was in a small little house in Gurgaon, Sector 52. I remember the director of the BBC World Trust Service came to my house with the casting director to make me speak few words in Hindi so that she is convinced that I can speak Hindi. So I said, okay. So, and I had still my scabs on my face, and so she said, okay, that's good. It's good enough. You'd play the role. So I was like, okay. And then they offered me 3 lakhs rupees a month, and I was like, what? This is- and never seen that amount of money together in my life. So I said, okay, this is a good thing. And still, at least I'm acting. I fell in love with theater. So my fascination for acting in films left me because I tasted films before I came to NSD. Then I tasted serious theater, and I fell in love with theater. So I was never interested to act in films, because the experience of doing theater, and the thrill and the engagement, and the rigor, and the vigor that it is required, and the demand which is required, it consumed me, and it was like almost addiction. And I compared that with my experience in filmmaking, film acting in Assam. It was nowhere near. I mean, you forget about nowhere near. It was far away. It's a billion kilometers away. So I still have that feeling, in spite of doing films for such a long time. I don't think, if I put all the films together, I will ever have a same thrill that I have even doing one play. You know, so that's my. If you would have asked me that question in future, this is the answer that I'm giving you now. So I never acted. I never wanted to act in films or television, for that matter, or in front of the camera, for example. So I embarked on it, and I struggled with the language, because they shot like 4 episodes in 15 days, which is quite a demanding thing. And I used to wake up 6 in the morning, work till 11 at night, come back home wherever we are shooting in Delhi, and it was physically challenging. But I did it, and for 2 years. And the third season, I said, no, I can't do it anymore, because I felt I was rotting. I felt that I can't speak those lines, "Doodh ka doodh, pani ka pani, karna hoga" anymore. and because I'm so used to reading or saying lines written by the greatest writers of the country and of the world, including Shakespeare and Kalidas and Babu Bhuti and Shudrak and Mohan Rakesh and Girish Karnad and all these great writers and Bernard Shaw and Tolstoy, and I can't say these lines, and I was like, I had pain in my heart. I would shrink as a person, like, oh my God, what am So I managed to save some money and to detox myself from this, television experience. It's not that I'm not grateful because I got the money and I could pursue almost 3 years of sabbatical with that. So I went after that to Hampi. I know that was your next question, probably. I went to a river island in Karnataka, in near Hampi, and I started working on myself. And then students from NSD, three of them came in, and then word of mouth spread, and students came in from different parts of the world, from as far as New Zealand to America, France, Germany, Austria, and they all joined in, and we were all searching together. It's not that I was the teacher, but I was leading the work because I was the senior most and I had done little more theater or acting than them. So I took the responsibility as the work leader. And we found amazing things, and we grew as a person, as a human being, understood nature more because we lived in the nature without any electricity or running water. We only had money to eat twice a day. So breakfast, lunch was 10:30, 5:30 was dinner and a cup of tea and a biscuit. So lived like almost like hermits, all of us slept on the rocks mostly and lived with bears and uh, leopards growling around and, scorpions and snakes and alligators in the river where we swam, and we bathed because we didn't have any water otherwise, except for a hand pump. So so I got the money from Jasus Vijay, and that helped me to do that. So I'm grateful to Jasus Vijay, and also the message that Jasus Vijay tried to impart. It's about HIV and how you can contract. And I have doubts about it now, whether it actually helped people or not, but probably did. Um, so yeah.
And then every actor has insecurity about their looks, and in mainstream Indian film, preference is given to look to certain extent. uh, and and I've read in some of the articles that during the initial days of your acting career you had this insecurity about yourself too. How did you fight that insecurity, and do you think that that is still there in the industry?
Yeah, it has changed a lot, I must say that, since then. It has changed a lot, and people like Nasiruddin Shah, Puri, they are the trailblazer. They established themselves as very highly respected actors, if not loved by the mass, but highly respected actors. The young generation, those who are educated, they love these actors. And they were not like conventionally good looking, but they are very looking people from my perspective, because good look is connected to your inner being. I think how you feel about yourself, and what's your self-esteem like, how do you perceive your own beauty, you know and what is beauty for that matter? Transparency, um, yeah, fearlessness, shamelessness, and I guess hatelessness. That is definition of beauty for me, and transparency. So there are people like that. Yes, I had the same. The few things which helped me. One is that, first of all, of course, seeing Nasib Bhai and Omji, and they're amazing actors. No doubt about it. They have proved themselves across the globe about their acting prowess. And then when I went to the Netherlands to act, and slowly I started teaching there as well. And every buddy in the theater company that I worked in, they thought I was very good looking. And I was like, really? I still don't believe them. But my wife thinks I'm very good looking. I'm like, really? Okay. That's the idea of good look. Because I always thought, because, I grew up with the idea of that I'm dark, and I didn't have any buddy to make me understand when I was young, and as a teenager, that color has nothing to do with how you look. It's so it took me a lot, but these are very deep-rooted conditioning that one grew up with. It takes a lot of time for oneself to even hard work, conscious hard work, to get out of those conditionings. Intellectually, I might know that, oh, okay, it doesn't, but actually to emotionally believe in it, it takes a long time to understand and to believe in it. So there is this blonde, blue-eyed woman who fell in love with me, and we had a relationship in Amsterdam, in Netherlands. And she said, "My God, you have no idea how good looking you are." I'm like, "Oh, really? Okay." So, for some reason, that idea of that, you know, dark people can be good looking, and that was as recently as 1997, when we had a relationship for quite some time, and I was like, "Oh, okay, okay, I accept you, I believe you." It took time. So, yes, this idea of good look, or or so-called handsome person, changes. I find the person who are truthful and transparent in films, especially in films or in life as well, they're extremely beautiful. So instead of looking at it as handsome, good-looking men or pretty-looking women, I would say beautiful is the word I would use. That are you a beautiful person? Beautiful not in the wishy-washy sense, in its truest sense, in the sense of that, as I said, how grounded you are, how humble you are, how transparent you are, and how loving a person you are. And those people are beautiful. Who has the courage to show, as an actor or as a performer, that what is happening within, not to hide behind a mask or a mustache or a bulky body, or those are cosmetics. But to really open, like Hanuman opens his heart and says, Ram and Sita are there. So, do you have that courage to show yourself? Yeah.
You talked about the conditioning, and mainstream Hindi cinema is yet to discover the northeastern part of our subcontinent, and
Yeah.
it was slightly changing with Ani Gadhai, though, which had
Mm,
characters and actors from the northeast to play the lead roles. But do you think the filmmakers are still hesitant to have characters from the northeast or actors from the northeast to play the lead in our
mm.
cinema? It's because of that conditioning that I think is there.
I think it is filmmakers, storytellers, writers, producers. They are product of our education system. Ideally, I wish they were more aware. Ideally, I would wish the storytellers and the filmmakers, theater makers, they're supposedly the um, counselors of a society. They ideally should play the role of a counselor, to heal the soul of the society, to heal the soul of the nation, of the country. Their role is to bridge the gaps between opposite views. Not only opposite views, all kinds of different views. There could be 7.3 billion views, no? Because we are 7.3 billion population on the planet, and we all have a perspective, and all are correct. That idea of respecting the other person's view is a very difficult one. You may not agree, but you must respect it. That Gandhiji was talking about it, the person who tortured Gandhi, he made him a chappal, a sandal. He did that. That's the, and very few people would understand in today's world because we believe in anger. We believe in that because anger is very exciting. It is tangible. It is very it works up your body. You feel it, and you think that working or operating from anger is something that is patriotic. It's disastrous most of the time. It can be channelized, of course. It has a place in the society, but it can be channelized towards constructive things. But so filmmakers, storytellers, as I said, they need to be more educated, more aware. What is the context of the country and the society at the present moment, present time? They must know the history. They should understand how Northeast had been feeling disconnected from the time of independence. How they look different. Where do they come from to India? So there were kingdoms. India wasn't a country before. They had been put together by this great a person called Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel. So he brought in all these things, including Goa and the other parts of the princely state, to the Indian nation. And Northeast has a very different history altogether. It doesn't match at all with the from the place from Bengal onwards. It doesn't. So, in order for Northeastern people, all the people of India to feel that they're together from the idea of the nation, they were not in the same nation. The idea had been created. In the created nation, how can we include them? If the politicians failed, they did badly, right from independence, and the artists, the filmmakers, the storytellers, they shouldn't have failed, according to me. They should have been more aware than the politicians. That's why I call them, they are the soul doctors. They are the doctors of the heart. They are the doctors of the conscience, the consciousness of the nation. They should be more aware. So when money becomes the most important intent behind making a film, then all these things are overlooked. And that's what has happened, not only from the Hindi film industry, but also from the southern film industries, also from the Bengal film industry, because Bengal film industry was very strong those days. They could have incorporated, they are very close to the Northeast, they haven't incorporated them as well. So I would say that we failed. We failed in our responsibility. Now, for some reason, for various reasons, of course, now they see, oh my God, this Mary Com is winning a war. Where is it? Oh, why? Manipur is in India? You know? So these are the geographical knowledge. When forget about politically conscious or socially conscious people. Acha, Nagaland, Kohima is the Nagaland is the capital of Kohima. These kind of questions comes in. So it's very highly embarrassing, but we can't keep blaming. But what can we do now? How is it that we can go ahead?
Yeah.
So they did not really put their act together, I would say, and failed a lot. And they should recognize that we failed, and can we do better now? So how can you do better? So in the conception level of storytelling, in the writing process, location wise, they should bring more awareness that, okay, let's shoot. Now it is happening. Like I just read a story, which is the second season of, I can't name it because I'm bound by the contract of NDA, non-disclosure agreement, it's placed in Northeast. I was like, wow, that's fantastic. So a lot of series are now going to talk about the Northeast. There'll be faces which will be introduced to the mainstream memory and the consciousness of India. And that's how you make them aware. You make the mainstream India aware that, okay, they are not outsiders, they're not Chinese. Even they're Chinese. For example, if a Chinese actor is, like, there are a lot of Chinese origin people in Kolkata. Why can't they be part of us? Why this hatred? Do you understand why Southern people are being criticized in North India? Why North Indian people are criticized in South India? We are very racist that way. Indian people are racist. We don't call ourselves, but we must do our reality check. Are ye to Madrasi hai? Then in the South India, was this is the North Indian people. These people are North Indian. We have found to, which is a human tendency. It's not like it only exists in India, but it does exist in India very, very strongly. We criticize people from different states, the Maharashtrian, the Bengali, the Bihari. We do that. We all the time do it. And the class-wise, I think the lower class people, and that is the lower class mentality. This is the middle class mentality, the elite class mentality. You know, this othering of the others is very human. It's like a territorial instinct. I call it the dog instinct. We're still there. We have not evolved to become a human being in all our aspects. Unfortunately, we haven't. So I'm digressing from here and there. Coming back, so Indian film fraternity
Yeah.
need to be more conscious, more aware of the rest of the country. And like, for example, which are happening in the West nowadays, there is a policy which has to be followed by the British film industry, that they have to take people from different community as characters. So, that's why you will see more Indians now, more Asians. Even I saw 2 or 3 episodes of Miss Marvel. It's a Pakistani character, origin Pakistani. Parents are from Pakistan. They're using Indian. India was, Pakistan and India were together. So they're using Hindi film songs. They're using her name is Kamala Khan. So see how consciously they are a community who had been demonized in the West after 9/11.
9/11, yeah.
They had been demonized, evilized, and the Islamophobia. So
Yeah.
mainstream Marvel company is doing what for the society? That, hey, you cannot brand a community as terrorist. It's not true. So they made sure that Miss Marvel is a Muslim guy, a Muslim woman, that too a woman, a girl, a young girl. Father is some Khan, mother is some Khan, originally from Pakistan, and they're doing that. They're showing mosque. They're going inside the mosque to introduce the white America. And it has been done in the West in the mainstream series. It's not some obscure art house film. It's a mainstream series. They're introducing white America, so-called supremacists or non-supremacist, normal white America, to come into the Muslim community. And say, hey, they are not devils. That's the job of an art. That's the job of a film. That's the job of storytelling, or filmmakers and storytellers. If I have answered your question. India should do it as well in so many ways. Not only caste politics, but the gender politics, the religious politics, and the tribe politics, which has happened. The tribals, for example, in Madhya Pradesh, they have been dislodged from their so-called home. The jungle is their home. They have taken away their livelihood, their culture, their idea of life, and the worldview has been taken away because you need to mine there. You have found some very important for the growth of the country. But what about those people? Who thinks about them? Where is the mainstream story made on those aspects? No, there are obscure, small art house films where Adil will act and nobody is going to watch. You know what I mean? Like few people will watch. Those who will watch are already converted. They know what is going on, but not those who don't know what is going on. They should watch it. No? Yeah, sorry, I can keep going on. Yeah,
You answered two questions in one, which is also about
great, super.
the importance of film and in society and what it could teach us. Yeah, Nationality is a
Exactly.
fantastic series. I think a new kind of work that is there in America. But you've also worked with highly acclaimed filmmakers like Ang Lee and Mira Nair. Both of them are, I think, are in New York. Um,
Yeah.
the filmmakers have distinct styles. Their filmmaking styles. So how much do these filmmakers churn out your acting abilities as an actor when you worked with Ang Lee for Life of Pi or Amir and I for The Reluctant Fundamentalist?
They do the magic by casting the right actors. 50-70% work is done. They'll audition probably, like, for example, Ang Lee probably has auditioned at least 300 to 500 actors after he has selected me, before he has selected me. So probably would Mira, at least 50 actors. So they know that, okay, this is the role, this is the era, this is the kind of personality that, or energies of a person that I'm looking for to play this particular role. And is he a trained actor? Yes, he is. Would he be able to deliver? He has delivered because you have auditioned. And later, they don't have to direct you much. They know that you're intelligent enough to prepare and to read. And if you have questions, you will ask the questions beforehand. You go to the set. They don't waste time on the set directing. "Aise karke karo, aise karke karo." They don't do it. They just let you do it. Like I remember Ang Lee only directed me once in one scene. He said, "Adil, can you put 10% affection to your sternness towards your child?" That was it in the entire shoot. That's the only direction he gave me. And in one place, which was not included in the film for some reason, he wanted me to put my hand on my heart, I think, or to put my hand in a certain way. It's for aesthetic reasons. There's no specific psychological reason behind it. So cinema is director's medium, and you must cater to the director, no matter how bizarre or how weird or unreasonable the demands are. If you have agreed to work with the director, you must follow the director.
And you have worked with Meera Nair, who is a diasporic filmmaker, whose film deal with Indian subjects and Indian themes. But having worked with her, how was your experience working with the Indian
Yeah,
filmmakers?
yeah, it's not very dissimilar because you see, Southeast Asia and India, like Ang Lee is a Taiwanese born director and is very much connected to Indian culture and is similar culture. I'm not saying same, but similar. There's the sense of family, sense of emotions, hospitality, all these things that we talked about in the beginning of the conversation. They all have the father complex. He has immense father complex, like the issues with his father. That's why you would see a lot of films deals with father-son relationship in his film, including Life of Pi. And he does it very well. So Meera is from India, born here, grew up in Delhi, and did theater in Delhi, and very close to one of my teachers, Khalid Tayyibji, who I have learned for a long time, and they were very close friends, and that's how even Meera knows me in the beginning. In the first place, since 1991, she knows me, that I exist. When I was a drama school student in NSD. In fact, she auditioned me to play Buddha in her film Buddha, but the film never took off. So then instead of playing Buddha, I played a terrorist in her film. It's very interesting again. So it was she's extremely warm, very warm-hearted, loving to the actors, totally. That she's in love with actors, and especially what I've seen in front of me. And she would sometimes show it to you how to do it, which I don't like at all. That directors show me how to do it. There are only few directors I have met in my life that they show you how to do it, and I don't like it. But I'm like, okay, this is how she or he explains what she is looking for. So I understand that, but I don't like it at all. So don't show me. Tell me what you want. You know. Yeah, and but she's very loving person. So I really enjoyed working with her, and she not only looks at acting, but she's probably a better designer of a film. Like she looks at the color and the light and costume and the flow and the texture and the line together. And actors are part of all that. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed.
Yeah, and many mainstream audience, including myself, who I watch reasonably good films, but also mainstream cinema. But uh, we noticed you for the first time in English Winglish, Gauri Shinde's directorial debut, if
Yeah,
I'm not wrong. And you played a character which underestimates his wife. It's a common syndrome in Indian men that they
yeah.
kind of underestimate the women counterpart, and it doesn't look like a villain, but it was an innocent misunderstanding, or something that is in the psyche. So what was Gauri's brief to you while describing this character of Sri Devi's husband in the film?
No, I think I just read the script and I got it because I grew up like that. I had been a person like that. You know, there is nothing new about it. There wasn't iota of alienness about it. My father was like that. My brothers are like that. My friends are like that. 99.9% of probably Indian men and men of the world are like that, who considers secretly that women are lower than them. That's the male chauvinist idea of the world that we grew up in. So it was nothing at all mystery or. But the only thing asked, I said to her was that I'm not going to play that as a villain. It's just we. So when I was working consciously to get out of my male chauvinistic ideas, and intellectually it was easy, very easy, but emotionally it was very difficult because the deep conditioning, emotional conditioning, where you thought that if you say something, women must listen to you. And that is a deep emotional conditioning, and that is the most difficult to get out of. So for me, it was very difficult to get out of. Maybe for other people, it could be easier. I have no idea. And one is to really work consciously in order for any men, including the men that I'm talking to, if there are men in them, to intellectually believe in it, which is simple. All men are equal, women, men, LGBTQ, all of them are equal, regardless of color, creed, and class. Person who comes to sweep your house, who opens the door for you, who drives your car, if you're a rich person, who comes to cook for you in your house, all are equal. So it is very easy to know, but difficult to practice because there is this ego, there are emotions, there's this self, belief that you are larger and you're bigger than them, you're better, all that. That takes a lifetime work, truly lifetime work. So I grew up and I said to Gauri that since I have gone through that transition and still going through the transition, and that it's not I'm not a villain when I was like that. I just didn't know. Nobody told me. Nobody told me. There was no example in front of me. But I met people, those who are the greatest example of non-chauvinistic non-judgmental person. My few of my teachers are completely the embodiment of human being in it's almost like I would say in the way towards perfection. I'm lucky to meet them, work with them, spend time with them, and read a lot of books on them, you know, on the subject. Met women, those who put me in my place, cruelly, brutally, in a way, emotionally, brutally. But I'm so grateful that has happened to me. So told the Gauri that I'm going to play it as if he doesn't know. He's an innocent guy, but completely ignorant to the hilt and deep conditioning. He just doesn't know that if you don't know you are a male, what do you do? So I don't know that I was male chauvinist, and he's like, "Yeah, it's normal. My wife is born to make laddus," and he laughs like a like a child in a way. You know, that's why people empathized with that character. That's why people liked that character because I did not judge my character. And as actor, you cannot judge any character that you play. You always have to empathize to the T to 100%, rather more than 100%, if that is a possibility at all, to empathize. And then people would empathize with you that, oh, you don't hate that person because the idea of art has to come into play there, that you are not creating a character to teach the society to hate a male chauvinist, but to understand and to help the person to come out of it, to bridge the gap. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was also, I think, the second last film of Sri Devi.
Yes.
It was the first time and last time working with her on screen. So before sharing the screen space with her, what was the ice-breaking moment between you and Sri Devi?
Oh, the first day I met him, even the first line that I spoke to him, I sat and we were doing a photo shoot, rather screen test. After I was cast, we do a screen test how my hair should be, how much color should be in terms of age, and because Sridevi and I are similar age, we are born in the same year, and so I needed to ideally look a little older than her, but so all that was happening, and so I was called in, and I saw Sridevi was sitting there in a makeshift studio. And I said to her that, when I saw, this is my first line, I saw Sadma when I was a kid, in a way, because she was a kid as well when she did it. And I couldn't eat for almost 2 days because I was so sad. And I saw her eyes going moist. And that was the first, then it broke the ice instantly. She looked at me and like, oh, this is the guy that I would love to work with. And I felt, hey, she's so accessible. She's not a superstar. She's accessible human being, and that connection I think is one of the most important connections that every co-actor should have with everybody, because you're telling human stories, you're telling stories to other human beings for the human being, and you must be a human first, then an actor or a superstar or all that nonsense that people carry on their shoulder, that I am a 100 crore 500 crore club actor. I'm a 5,000 crore club actor, by the way, because Life of Pi made 5,000 crore, maybe 7,000 crore. So nobody has crossed my film limit yet in India so far. None of the superstar has crossed the amount of money that my film had ever earned.
Yeah.
So I never say that. But nowadays I hear, so someone actually, I didn't even think about it. So I was being interviewed. I've been interviewed by an actor, by a journalist in those days, I think 2013 or 14. And my friend was sitting beside me. And so he asked me, or she, I forgot, she asked me that, oh, you never worked in 100 crore club films. So I'm like, yeah, nobody cast me. What do I do? I don't have the ability, or maybe whatever it is. Then my friend said, excuse me, should not answer that question, but I'm saying Adil is a 5,000 crore club actor, if you have not noticed, because Life of Pi was made for $110 million, but it earned close to $1 billion. So it's like, oh yeah, no, but I didn't think about it because I don't know. Why should you think like that? That is a ridiculous way to think. Like how what is your like 100 crore? Now it has become 500 crore or whatever club. And how good is your film, for God's sake? Talk about that first. How miserable the film that you made, it didn't make any sense to me. I don't want to name those films, but what I'm saying, there is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you are working with a co-actor, do you rehearse before the scene or do you just improvise while you are shooting?
No, you do. It depends on the director. If the director wants us to rehearse, we do. If the director says, some actor would say, some actor who has got a say, like senior actor like me now, I have become senior. She maybe would say that, okay, let's do a rehearsal, and director would say, sure, why not? And if someone says, no, let's rehearse but shoot it also. Let's see if we get a good take. So it's flexible. There's no hard and fast rule about it. No.
Another beautiful film in your repertoire, long list of films that you have done, is Mukti Bhavan.
Mm.
It's a never seen kind of story where a son is forced to do his job, and also accompany his father at the house or room in Banaras. And how did this film happen? And did you also do any research while you were shooting? Did you go to any Salvation Room in Banaras, meet the people there, ask their experiences, and then incorporate it in your acting?
I was lucky to have been given those research already done by my director. And the director, I don't know whether you know or not, he was 24 years old, 23 years old when he wrote it, and he directed me when he was 24. Subhashish Bhutiani, and he had traveled across the country and ended up in Banaras and saw and did the research and wrote this amazing story, and it was submitted in the script lab of Venice Film Festival. They have commissioned it after going through and reworking on the script several months, several drafts. And when the film came to me, I was not given the script first. I didn't even ask for the script. I just heard the concept over WhatsApp message. And I said, I will do it because I just felt that this story is one of the stories that I'd like to be part of it. Never told. I always had issues with my dad. We all have, I guess, depending on what degrees. And that was not new for me at all, having issues with your dad and unspoken grudges and accusations and unresolved, emotional issues with your dad. But this, and when you are put together, your dad and you, which you had kept distance, all your life, suddenly in one small, tiny little room. And before he passes away, it's a very amazing plot in order for us to explore the father-son relationship. So I said, yeah, let's do it. And then I read the script and I was like, wow, how old are you? He humbly says, I'm 24. I'm like, when I was 24, I was just probably running after girls. And you have written the script. That's not true, but partially true. Yeah, that I was only running after girls. I was asking also deep questions here.
Yeah. So it's a beautiful film, and I hope they make more such stories. Uh, so another film that I think my generation would associate is Star Trek Discovery, where you did a guest appearance, a short role in the film. So how was that? How did you become part of Star Trek?
Oh, just surely because of my agent who is in America, who lives in LA, and who keeps looking for roles for my age and my kind of background and look and whatever it is. So she asked me if I am interested to audition. I said, you send me the script. If I like it, I'll audition. And I loved the scenes, though it was a small one, but very impactful. And it was liked across they call it the fandom, Star Trek fandom, fanatic fans across the globe. They loved it, and I enjoyed shooting with it. In the while I was there in Toronto, in Pinewood Studio, and they're extremely professional, to the point that you're like, wow, I wish India would be like this one day. They take their job so seriously. And I mean, everybody takes their job seriously, probably, but the amount of details that they find and they try to resolve much before you go to the floor is monumental. I have not seen anybody in India doing that at all. None, zero. So we have a long way to go to produce something of that caliber. But at the same time, like Mukti Bhavan, for example, stories like that can happen. Um, but it can be better, you know. It can be always better. So, yeah.
Yeah. So we are on the last part of the conversation, which is your takes on a few questions that we'll ask. So, while shooting, the production team checks out on scene continuity to avoid continuity errors, and when they have to edit the scenes and what actor is wearing. So, if the shoot
Yeah,
is on
yeah,
the other day, you have to wear the same thing at the same place, etc. But there's also this thing which is very internal, that is the emotional continuity. When you are invested in a scene, then there's this cut and you have to continue it on another day. Maybe the shoot is 5 days later. How
yeah,
do
yeah.
you maintain that emotional continuity while acting?
For that, you have to come to my class to understand it. But if I tell you in words, it is difficult. There is something called body memory that the dancers remember. Okay, my hand has to be here and not here. You know, it has to be. Is it without closing? While my eyes are closed, is it near my eyes or is it here? Is it near the nose? It's the body memory, right? So if I bring my hand, my eyes are closed. If I bring my hand, so from say here, okay, here, is it near my nose? And then it's my eyes here. It's the left eye. So my fingers, my muscle remembers that my eyes are not here, but here, without looking, right? So it's a muscle memory, and emotions are the consequence of certain hormones which is created inside your brain, and through the nerves it goes into the body, and the body takes a shape or a feeling, a certain tension which highly untangible, sometimes tension which come, like for example, my head is like this. If you look at me very clear, very carefully, my head is like this. It is now like this. It's very subtle. From here I did this, very subtle, but the body remembers it. The emotion which I feel when my head is here, like here, I'm not doing anything, just my rolling my head and looking up at you. It is, if I keep talking to you like this for a long time, you'll be like, what's wrong with Adil? Why is he looking at me like that? But I'm not thinking of emotion. It's just my head is here and I'm looking at you up like this. And if I smile like this, I look like an evil man. You see? You know? So body remembers it. And to remember it, you have to train yourself how to remember them. So even if that has happened 2 days, those who are not trained, they find their own way, and some people don't. So the director has to remind and go through the same exercise, maybe the same memory and all that. But a well-trained dancer or a singer, they remember it. वहां छोड़ा, so वहां से फिर पकड़ना पड़ेगा to catch it from sa there. And untrained singers or dancers, they have to like, oh, acha, यहाँ था, ऐसा था, ऐसा था. It's a difficult one. So that's my job to remember. The body remembers it itself, and you go back and it comes. So it looks like effortless, but a lot of effort had been put in before.
And I think that is the main difference between a trained actor and a, somebody who
One
has
of the main
studied.
differences.
Yeah.
Yeah, the main difference, I generally give two examples which make sense to me. I haven't found a better example. That any modern singer, including all the famous singers in India who sings for films and all that, unless they are actually classically very well trained, but if they are not trained, nobody can sing like Bhimshan Joshi unless they put in another 20 years. But Bhimshan Joshi can sing like any of them at any time. So that's the difference. Yeah,
That's a beautiful example actually, because
yeah,
Vinky
yeah,
Joshi remains one of the greatest. Because I learned sitar, and when
yeah.
you play any of his bandishes, it's
Exactly, exactly. But to
that,
sing like him, you have to really put 18 hours a day for 20, even if after that you may not be able to sing like him, because you learn the technique and the sura and the raga and everything, but what he pours into them,
the
you
experience.
know, with the experience, the truth, the moment of joy that
Yeah.
is being put in at that moment, it's like, and other singers, like nowadays I'm listening to Mr. Uday Bhavalkar, a Drupad singer, he is, oh my God. And I listen to him almost every morning. And I had the good fortune to talk to him on a video phone the other day because my friend is working with him and to make a piece of performance, theater performance with Mr. Uday Bhalkar and some of the other singers. And I was like, oh my God, that was a fan moment for me. And he says, I love you acting. I'm like, oh my God, please. So, yeah, yeah, you're right.
So every artist has a political view, and it reflects in their art form in some sense or the other.
Mm.
It could be subtle, but it is visible. So when you are performing a character, and suppose that character has a different political viewpoint than yours, so how do you resolve that conflict between the personal and the character?
I think I answered that question before, like when I said any character that I play, I must empathize with the person. I may not agree intellectually, but I must empathize. They're two different things. It can happen hand in hand, but you can separate it also. Empathy can be like deep empathy a mother can feel or father can feel for their offspring without agreeing with the what the maybe the son has murdered somebody for that matter. If the son has murdered somebody and mother feels deep empathy when the son is being jailed, like, oh, I love you, without agreeing with the fact that, you know, the murdering part of it. But you cannot suddenly dislike that person. You have to find it. Mother love, that is their mechanism. Not saying all mothers in the world, but quite a lot of mothers that I know of would still love me, my mom, but would not agree or approve of the fact that I murdered somebody. So that kind of unconditional love that you have to practice in order for not only to play a character which has got other opinion about political or social views, but any view for that matter. Yeah.
And in the first part of the conversation, you said that sometimes because of this linguistic barrier with Hindi, you had problems with improvising, and when this improvisation happened while shoot, I think might it is very common improvisations while shooting. How do you creatively defend yourself when an actor does this improvisation without any warning? How do you defend yourself?
Sorry, I didn't understand the question. Can you repeat, please?
Yeah, so when I've read somewhere that in boxing, when you are fighting with the opponent, you have to judge what will be their next move. So in acting, when you are improvising, the co-actor is also improvising. You have to judge what is going to be their next move. So how because if you are working in Hindi and the language barrier is there, how do you improvise then? What's the creative defense that you adopt?
I don't think the difference between the analogy you gave of boxing and two actors improvising are a bit different. Boxing, you consider the other as an opponent, but in art, we consider the other as a co-creator. It's a total attitude different. It's a perception of the other is that you are a co-creator. So you do not judge the next sentence. You just be in the present. As the next move of the other actor is done, you would automatically, organically would come out with a response. You do not think about, as soon as you think about what could be the next, you are moving away from the present. So the whole idea of creation only happens when you are deeply rooted in the moment of now, and you do not think of the what has happened and what's going to happen. You don't, especially in the improvisation. Even when it is rehearsed, fully rehearsed, you know all the lines, you know every move that you're going to make, like a dancer, that here it will come here, there. But those are the dancer who are better dancer, who, as if doing it for the first time, the same movement which he or she has done for 40 years. Bhimsen Joshi, when he sings the same raga after 40 years, you listen to him with more awe because he has forgotten the raga. The song is singing him. He's not singing the song anymore because it has become of him. Similarly, to be like that, I mean, it is far away to be like that for any actor that I've seen, or forget about Adil. Like, but I'm saying that's where I would like to arrive at. That you are so deeply rooted in the moment that past, present, and future is become one. Anyway, here,
And
yeah,
so let's change the analogy to one that the jugalbandi between a sitar player and the pakhavash player. So when
exactly,
there's this tune, so he has to
exactly,
copy it.
yes,
Be
exactly,
co-creator of the same art. Uh,
absolutely.
so you have done fantastic work in word cinema, in theater, and you have done some Hindi commercial films too, like Z Plus and others. So do you have to compromise with your craft while doing commercial films to a certain extent?
No, no, I don't think so. There might be less demand from the director because, yeah, because the intent is so different, uh, or different kind of demand. If I say not less demand, but different kind. And you are playing. So I have cast myself in my life. One of my roles in my life is to be an actor, right? The other roles are there. I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a son of my mother, brothers of my brothers, friends of my friends, citizen of India, and all kinds of roles that I play. One of the main roles that I play is I practice acting. So my job is to play a different role in my life. And one of the very professionally I play to play different roles. So when I work in independent film or so-called art house film, I play the role of an actor who is acting in an art house film. And when I play a role in a commercial films, that I play the role of an actor who is acting in commercial films. And demands are different, needs are different, and my intent behind doing both the films are different. So I follow that intent. Why am I doing this? And I put myself sincerely as I would in the so-called art house film, for that matter, or a good film, or a meaningful film. This is less meaningful maybe for me, but I try to make it meaningful for myself. It is the director's, writer's, producer's job to make it whatever they want, but I've agreed to do it. And there are certain issues and in terms of the content of the film that I agree with. Otherwise, I would never do it. Yeah. And of
Do-
course, one of the main reasons, probably the commerce part of it, that I got paid a lot of money so that I can subsidize my life and I can subsidize my action in art house film because they don't pay much to pay my bills.
Yeah.
And I can do theater. I can pay the bills, the person who come to work in a house more than I would like to. I can manage when I work in a commercial film. That okay, I am paying this much money for last 2 years. I can increase her salary. I can look after her children's education. So I'm doing what I do. So that's why I never judge people those who have a lot of money. They probably are doing a lot of things in the society I don't know about. You know, yeah.
you have worked across multiple platforms, TV, theater, cinema, and now you have also worked for OTT. How do you evaluate its impact on the viewership trends and cinema viewing cultures across, in terms of the content that is now popularized?
Um, I think it's very complex in the first place to talk about it. There are like multi-dimensional impact that even at a single action of a human being can have. They say there is a kawat, no, there is a flutter of the butterfly in Amazon, and there could be rain in some other part of the world. So I don't know if I'm qualified to even to talk about it. The only thing which comes to my mind, which I have spoken of before as well, is that with all the skills in the world, it like be making the theory of relativity, for example, of Einstein, or Einstein's skill of understanding physics and mathematics when it was put to an atom bomb and was thrown into Hiroshima and and Nagasaki. That's what we are doing now with the skills of amazing technology and directors and skilled writers, and we are only looking at dark aspects of humanity. Probably I just take solace by thinking that probably this is an evolutionary process that we have to really look at the dark sides to come to the light. Like my teacher gives a very beautiful example of the skill of a vulture flying high in the sky, can see everything down where and on the planet, and they only see the carcass of dead animals, highly skilled. But we are looking down at the lower depth of humanity, and most of the platforms are filled with dark stories, crime, murder, horror. When are we going to talk about the something aspirational, something that human being could probably become, if not tomorrow, in a few years from now? How to inspire them to get out of this greed and this desire which is motivating the world and humanity to eat up the entire planet? How can we inspire them? uh, and that's our job, people, those who are in the powerful business of filmmaking, influencing young minds, like those who are going to watch this, I hope, and impressionable age people, their psychological aspects, their worldview is being shaped by what they watch, what they hear, what they read, and what they watch in television in terms of information and news has gone to the dogs. And now, if we are also doing that, filmmakers and art makers, then it is. But as I said, that probably to go up, we have to go really down to the rotten state, and we'll go up. I'm just hoping that.
But do you also think that because you mentioned that you were typecasted in some senses in commercial film, you were getting all these serious roles and not comic roles. So do you think OTT would give actors more creative liberty to explore themselves and to try more
Yeah,
genres?
yeah, it is happening. It's happening. Um, it's a human tendency to categorize people. Always, we do that. But as I said, that I would expect more from people those who practice art. They're supposed to be more macro. They should be able to see macro more than just living in the micro and behave like a headless chicken. So the macro part, where the society could go, or we can take them, help them to go, or bridge the gap, as I said it before. Yeah, the typecast is a part of that. We categorize. Okay, these are Naga people, South Indian Madrasis, Kashmiri Pandits, or Kashmiri Muslims are terrorists, or Pandits are victims. Of course, they are victims, but there are also wonderful people in the Pandit community. They can take lead and they can, they are doing it. Or Yeah, so this categorization of Hindu, Muslims, and all kinds of my brother, I categorize him, for example. So he's a leftist-minded brother, and he's the rightist-minded brother, whatever, all categories that we do. It's a human tendency, but I just wish that practitioner of art, you know, they should not, they ideally should not categorize and cast Adil only in serious roles, or Pankaj Tripathi only in semi-funny or murderous role, or Nawaz in a typical, we can all play different roles. And that ability to play different roles makes you a flexible person, you know. And perception is difficult to change, I know. And how India is being perceived in the West, uh, how it is difficult to change it, So it works in every levels, from the family unit to the nation and world and all that. Yeah, I just hope that OTT platform, as I said, is filled with darkness, most of it, or wishy-washy romantic comedy. Um, but rarely you see aspirational things like this amazing, beautiful film that I saw, Octopus, My Teacher, an octopus. It's an example documentary on how an octopus and a human being, came to bond and they danced together underneath the sea. It's a beautiful film. You should watch it. Probably it's on WhatsApp or Amazon, in Netflix or Amazon. It's so inspirational, you know. Documentaries are more inspirational for me nowadays than what I see in fiction. Yeah, I don't know. I can. Did I answer your question?
Yeah. So that was the end of our formal conversation. Now,
Thank you.
four very quick, short one marker questions to you.
I don't like them. I
So
don't like short questions and
they are
one
not.
word questions.
No, they are not one word, but because we also don't like rapid fire coffee with current
I don't like them. There is no rapid fire here. There's
but
nothing rapid about it.
but if you could just summarize which actor or what actors inspired you the most in your journey.
Okay. Yeah, there are few actors. Initially, it was in Assam, Tapan Das. And then later, my teacher, Khalid Tayebji, was extremely inspiring for me. And I still think he's one of the best that India has no clue about who he is. Theater actor. Uh, I think the best theater actor that I've ever seen in India. And the other actors who inspired me is Thomas Richard, who one could Google and find out. Mario Biagini is Italian actor. These are all theater actors. Film actors, a lot of Russian actors that you don't even know names of them. Of course, certain actors from America, from Europe, and Jamini Krishnamurthy, the dancer. Um, then Sanjukta Panigrahi and the great Nautanki actors, Parsi actors, Kathakali actors, Amanur Chakyar, Kudiyattam actors, Amanur Chakyar, Kathakali actors is Mr. Gopi, Sadanam Balakrishnan. They're amazing actors, they're the greatest actors on the planet that one can ever see. Caliber wise, accomplishment, mastery over the craft. I consider singers are actors as well because they're not like so-called actors, but they perform, they have a structure, they express themselves in an amazing structure that an actor can dream of even. Um, yeah, I don't know.
And who are your favorite or theater directors whom you worked with, or those who inspired you the most?
I
Theater.
think I've worked with very few theater directors. So if I must name them, one of my teachers, Robin Das, who is from Orissa, who used to be a permanent teacher in NSD, just retired. And my classmate and dear friend, way more than family, is Royston Abel. Then my mentor, teacher Dilip Shankar, who is in Delhi. They are my most favorite theater directors.
Favorite or the play that you love going back to?
It's a play that I had been doing with my mentor, friend Dilip Shankar, called Karmnishta. It's a dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna.
And any book that you recently read or book that you would like to recommend everybody to read on any theme, but also on cinema?
On cinema, recently I haven't read anything on cinema. No, for a long time I haven't read anything on cinema actually. But I had been reading these two books, staring at it right now as I speak. It's on the table. The Letters on Yoga by Sri Aurobindo. 2 volumes. Maybe you get it in 1 volume these days. Just opening my eyes more. I read it before, but I'm reading it again, and I'm like, oh, I missed that. I missed that. I missed that. I think everybody can read it if they're looking for answers of unquestioned, articulated question. The questions are not even there that you have never asked. Answers are there. Yeah.
And a film that made you appreciate the medium of cinema?
Sorry, come again.
A film that made you appreciate the medium of cinema?
The thing that made me appreciate the medium cinema, yeah, that you can go so close to a person. You can zoom into the eyes. You can probably, in today's world, you can go like this first Spielberg film that I saw, Inner Space. They travel inside the body. And it doesn't have to be that fictional that nobody can go. But yeah, nowadays you can go, actually. You can go through with a tiny camera and, you can operate or put a stent inside your nerve. I mean, it's like crazy. So a camera can do that. And that's one of the most important aspect of filmmaking, that you can really go from macro to micro in a second. And that's the reason probably that why film actors are being more loved, or people think they know them, because only few um, people in your life can come that close, if at all. So that is one, and then it can be accessed from anywhere in the world. You can access it. You can access it. You can blow it up and watch in big screen. You can watch it nowadays in a personal device that's completely private and personal experience when you watch it in a tiny device or a computer. But you can also watch it in a communal way, in the whole society. Then it's a different experience. And both are, I think, very, very crucial and important. That you watched it with somebody, the whole entire film, with strangers sitting in a cinema hall, and you're watching it on your own device, and you can stop, you can rewind, you can go through it again and you see it again. That's also, I think, is a very important aspect of, it's like reading a book. You want to read the same page again. And I was like, wow, this I missed, That cannot happen when you watch it on a big screen. So both are equally valid and both are going to coexist, I think, because both are important. Your communal life, your life with your community, your life with strangers, and feeling one when you are laughing or smiling or crying or just being awed together, like 200 people, 500 people watching the same film. Like you go to a stadium to watch a match, and you're like, whoa, and that energy to feel one with the humanity. Very important to go to a cinema hall, to watch it, to a stadium, to watch whatever play. I don't like IPL because it has made it a commodity myself, so I don't watch it much. But so is cinema has been made into a commodity, so I'm not judgment. But at least the art house film. Recently, I saw this amazing film made by my teacher, Ghode ko jalebi khilane le ja raha hu. If you haven't watched it now, it is running in
Anamika Hussain,
Kolkata.
yeah.
Anamika, she was my teacher. She taught me in NSD, and I watched it again on my big screen here. I have a projector and a screen. I watched it in a cinema hall and I loved the film. And I think everybody should watch it. What a beautiful film. And it talks about those people generally nobody talks about. People, those who are rack pickers. But what an intelligently made film. What an aesthetically beautifully made film. Touching and moving at the same time, interesting and funny, which is a great combination. You are otherwise making a boring art house movie. Who are going to watch it? Nobody wants to watch a movie which is um, not interesting enough to capture your imagination, to give you space to imagine yourself as well. So this one, I don't know whether you have seen it or not, but it's going to come to OTT platform soon, I hope. But now it's running in Kolkata. People, those who are watching, those who would watch from Kolkata should go and watch it.
Yeah. Now the final question, the the ultimate question of the conversation, which would decide the fate of the interview.
Oh
Uh,
my God.
so
Tell
how,
me, tell me.
how was your experience of being on Caravan, this Caravan Cinema Archives, if you would like to say about it?
A terrible experience. I have never faced such a bad interview in my life. And what was I convincing? No, I wasn't. No, Ishan, I think I would say that your curiosity and your attitude is so relaxed. You have made me comfortable. I mean, of course, I hope I have made you comfortable as well. And it's always like great pleasure. Like recently, I was interviewed by Nilesh Mishra, which was like 4 hour long interview. And then he has a knack for letting you speak, like not, he becomes unimportant. That's the whole idea. That if I invite you for a conversation and I want to interview, so I'm the person who will trigger a certain conversation, but I'm unimportant and I would like to hear from you. So he has that, and so do you have that. And it's amazing to talk about it, talk to you and conversing with you. So thank you for inviting me,
Thank you so much, sir.
Ishan.
And I look forward to seeing you in Delhi. I'll be there hopefully next month. So I'll
Yeah.
look and
Where are you based?
I'm based in Kanpur, which is
Oh, wow. Never been there. Hmm.
you must visit here. We'll do a heritage walk with you.
Okay.
And if you don't remember, I messaged you on Instagram in 2016, and I just wrote that, Adil sir, I want to meet you. Are you in Delhi? You said, I'm not. I'm shooting for some film, and that
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah, yeah.
first chat that I had with you. But
Okay.
this was the first official archival conversation that we had, and I look forward to many more with you in Delhi.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Let's do that.
Thank you so much.
Okay.